Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we continue talking about one of the biggest and most prolific movie-making companies in the world, the Walt Disney Company. They have recently had a giant wave of not only making live-action reboots of its 80s and 90s classics, but also Disney has been getting awfully woke along the way while doing it, usually doing so by making politically correct and progressive casting choices. For example, this recent wave of controversies started with the release of Aladdin earlier this summer. That movie's casting was troubled before too, when people weren't really feeling the casting of Will Smith as the genie. But as it turned out, Will did a pretty decent job in the movie. But unfortunately, he couldn't save the whole picture from coming off as lackluster, unimpressive, and quite frankly, somewhat unnecessary considering how close it was to the animated original. But besides receiving middling reviews, Aladdin also suffered from a number of SJW-related casting problems. Besides early complaints that the new Jasmine wasn't dark-skinned enough, left-wingers also attacked the new Aladdin's production team for even daring to cast a single white person in the movie. Yes, this film stayed very true to the original story and area of its setting, going out of its way to make almost everyone in the film authentically Arab or Middle Eastern looking. But there was one new character who turned out to be white, a Norwegian king character and possible suitor for the princess. And needless to say, the social justice warriors took umbrage with this casting. Apparently they hoped there would be absolutely zero white people on the screen for this Arabian-based tale. So the thought of one of us being a part of this movie really shook them, because leftists hate white people. And this anti-white sentiment can be seen more in the next Disney live-action remake controversy too. After the dust settled on Aladdin, just last week, Disney decided to start announcing details on its next two live-action remakes. The first story involved the casting of the upcoming Little Mermaid remake, which will now feature a blackwashed Ariel, the main character. And this of course excites and elates the same SJW crowd who complained about having one white person in Aladdin. They would also complain and cry racist if a white person took another racist role, like when they complained about Ghost in the Shell and the Ancient One in Doctor Strange, the latter of those also being a Disney-owned product now. Disney owns Marvel, but regardless, this new Little Mermaid is now a quasi-cross-eyed black chick who no one has ever heard of, all because Disney wants to virtue signal, showing they are down with the blacks and the social justice warriors. Keep in mind here too that the Little Mermaid is just as rooted in the Norwegian area and its folklore as Aladdin is rooted in Arabia. The original Little Mermaid fairy tale that the movie was based on was originally written by a prolific Danish author, Hans Christian Andersen. So to take his Little Mermaid and blackwash it would be pretty similar to whitewashing, say, Aladdin or Princess Jasmine. But which of these race swaps do you think is acceptable and encouraged in the modern discourse in current year, while the other is simply reviled? Well, you probably guessed it, and you're right. Black and brown washing is always okay, and it's encouraged even by SJWs. But doing the reverse is obviously completely condemned. And that's why we're about to get an all-black interpretation of The Little Mermaid that's already looking woke as hell. And while this Little Mermaid controversy from last week is still dying down, even getting worse when some realize Disney or its ad team may have stoked the flames here themselves by creating sock social media accounts in order to pretend the outrage was greater than it was, and thus making the story bigger. Pretty scandalous, but yeah, that probably happened. And then, just a few days after all this, Disney also announced and released the trailer for yet another live-action remake. This time it's Mulan that's getting dusted off, recast, and refilmed, so Disney can cash in on nostalgia once again. And besides seeming very greedy and like they're overdoing it way too fast with this live-action reboot stuff, but also, I think the timing of this Mulan trailer coming out now is rather offensive and certainly hypocritical, all things considered. Just look at this recent trend all over again. First there was Aladdin, which had to be made with all brown and Arab people, or else. Even one side character being white made SJWs attack and shame Disney for it. Then, when it came to make a movie based on white people and their stories and legends, well, Disney didn't even think twice about blackwashing that shit, throwing out the original story and the author's original vision along the way. Hundreds of years of legacy thrown out the window because screw white people, I guess. And then now, in their immediate next step, after watching this new Mulan trailer, Disney obviously went back to area and story appropriate casting, making almost every person in the entire Mulan trailer Asian, as they should be. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either. I'm fine with the authentic, story-appropriate casting, but how come this is not done when it's a white-based fairy tale or original work? The Little Mermaid is clearly a Norwegian-based fairy tale that, sure, maybe, it was probably relocated to the Caribbean in the first film. There's clearly Caribbean influence in the sea themes and the animation and, of course, the Jamaican-sounding crab, but now, to go on to blackwash the main character of that, which in turn will force her father, the King of the Sea, to be black as well, and also Ariel's sisters, well, this whole thing is changing more more and more each and every second. And this wouldn't be so bad if Disney was mixing things up and race bending all over the place, but they're clearly not. They're only recasting things when they're white characters. And quite frankly, I'm getting sick of it. But it wasn't just the ill thought out timing that rubbed me the wrong way about the new Mulan trailer. I and many others, we aren't too excited about the super serious, over the top tone the new movie seems to have. The trailer is pretty dry and heavy to say the least. And it appears this movie will be doing without the original musical accompaniment. That means no songs, no singing, and to put it simply, no fun. I mean, can you really call this a live action reboot of Disney's animated Mulan without the song Reflections? I don't think so, and many appear to agree. And another thing missing from this reboot is a couple of the beloved main characters. Cinema Blend here has more details about the missing characters and the resulting outrage. Their article is called Disney's First Mulan Trailer Doesn't Have Mushu, and the internet is freaking out, as they should. Let's go ahead and check this thing out. During yesterday's glorious victory by the US women's national team at the FIFA Women's World Cup final, Disney appropriately debuted the teaser trailer for next year's live-action remake, Mulan. There was a lot to like in the trailer, from the beautiful photography to Mulan in battle, but it wouldn't be a Disney live-action reimagining if people weren't upset about something. In this case, it is the glaring absence of Mulan's guardian dragon Mushu that the internet is freaking out about. Take a look. Then there's a tweet below that with a clip from the original movie. And I gotta say, not including Mushu the dragon, Li Shang, or Shang Yu does seem pretty scandalous here. I understand this new Mulan is going with a more serious, grounded approach, but was that even a good idea to begin with? There are plenty of serious Asian-based war films out there already. Go watch The Great Wall or The Last Samurai or something, if you want that kind of realistic vibe in this area and time in history. But for a Mulan remake coming from Disney, I do think fans have a right to expect more fun, songs, singing, and the majority of the original film's cast too. This is like remaking Aladdin without the monkey Apu or the magic carpet. It just doesn't work or make sense. So I guess we'll have to wait and see how Mulan turns out without its comic relief side characters and songs and music next year when it comes out in March. Finally, before we go, let's talk more about this whole live action reboot trend Disney has been milking for the last year or two now. Although many say it started with Alice in Wonderland that came out in 2010, I think this more recent wave is what's been more troubling. First, it was 2016's Jungle Book remake, which was actually a welcome reimagining that brought different sides and new life to the story. Then in 2017, Beauty and the Beast got a reboot that started this more specific trend of live action remaking the movies from Disney's 1990s Renaissance. So although 2018 saw a sort of live action reimagining of Winnie the Pooh in a movie titled Christopher Robin, it wasn't until later in the year 2019, current year, that things started getting completely out of hand. Now we have 3 Disney live action remakes coming out: Dumbo, Aladdin, and The Lion King, all coming out this year. The latter of 2 being major franchises from Disney's Renaissance again. And now the 2 new announcements coming this week, which we're going over today, pretty much round out all of Disney's movies from the 90s getting live action remakes. First, 1989's The Little Mermaid, which of course is getting blackwashed, and now Mulan, which is getting an accurate interpretation, sure, but it's at the cost of more fun characters and musical elements. And in my opinion, I think it's pretty foolish of Disney to remake so many of their popular movies within the span of a year here. Dumbo, Aladdin, Lion King, Mulan, The Little Mermaid, that's way too much at once. If they had spaced these out to maybe 1 or 2 a year, then they might each be received better. But now people are certainly getting weary of this, and Disney's greed is showing again as well. I know the Disney executives are under pressure to perform, but that's the problem with wanting profits and trying to look woke and letting that override your common sense in entertainment. They want to make the most money for the quarterly and yearly record books, and they're clearly not considering the long-term effects of that enough. That's why I think each of these films, which are live-action remakes from the Disney Renaissance years, they could have pulled in a lot more money if they had released them over the course of a few years instead. Those are some of their most popular properties, world-renowned franchises, but with them all coming out so soon, one after the other, the public really doesn't have time to respect them much, nor would they be as much anticipated and hyped up as they could be. At least with Marvel, a similar filmmaking company, well, at least they know how to play the peaks and valleys and cyclical nature of public interest, and so they wisely space out many of their films. Marvel also has the benefit from having many different, varying types of movies underneath their Marvel Cinematic Universe banner, which helps them mix things up. But Disney's animated movies, which are getting live-action rebooted, well, although they each have their differences in location and tone and some different songs, they also seem strikingly similar, especially when you put them together in shorter lineups like what we've seen starting in 2019. And if Disney continues to force its supply on moviegoers, they might just find people balking at its oversaturation of the market. This will eventually result in many rebelling in their entertainment entertainment choices in some ways, reflecting in lower revenues for Disney in the end, I'm sure. And as it's said in Spider-Man, the comic book, and the movies, with great power comes great responsibility. So in regards to Disney, well, the mouse, it's slowly dominating the entertainment sphere, but if it can't let people step back and breathe once in a while, or it delivers too many cookie-cutter films, which is a downside of tapping into franchise building or nostalgia trends too much, well, this cheese pile which the mouse hoards, it will start to smell and stink, and it may not be able to easily escape this cheese and its downfall. Lastly, besides too many remakes, Disney also needs to end this wannabe woke SJW influenced casting drama, because this is something else that's getting old really quick, and it will continue to pester and turn off would-be moviegoers along the way. Keep in mind, this recent wave of casting controversies aren't the first ones. Disney also received backlash for the casting in the new Star Wars movies, another franchise which they own now, and they had a lot of backlash on the casting of both The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, which not only repeatedly had star females, which also happened in Rogue One, well, they also contained Mary Sue type star females and characters, who were also way too much influenced by feminism, and the rest of the cast is overly diverse as hell too. And also, let's not forget back in 2017, when the cast for the new Lion King movie was announced, which featured a large majority of black and now Jewish actors playing the characters. They were clearly getting woke there early on back then, and as we've seen today, things have only gotten worse in the past 2 years. Hopefully that Lion King movie turns out decent, since it is coming out soon later this summer, in less than 2 weeks, and I truly hope the other projects turn out well for Disney too, but I clearly have my doubts as well. What do you guys think? Is the release of this Mulan trailer poorly timed? Why are Arab and Asian stories respected and cast appropriately, but white-based fairy tales get black or brown washed without a second thought? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time.